Something is quietly breaking apart in rural America, and most people scrolling through grocery store aisles have absolutely no idea it is happening. The food on your plate, the prices you pay at checkout, and the long-term security of the entire country's food supply are all tied to a farming economy that is showing signs of serious, possibly irreversible, structural stress. This video breaks down 15 specific warning signs that economists, agricultural researchers, and farmers themselves are flagging right now. By the end, you will understand exactly what is going wrong, why it has been building for decades, and why every single American should be paying attention whether they live in a city apartment or a farmhouse on the plains. The first warning sign is the one most people get wrong. The headline farm income number looks stronger than the pain many farmers actually feel. The latest Department of Agriculture forecast says, net farm income is expected to be $153.4 billion in 2026, down by 2.6% after inflation from 2025. That does not sound like collapse. In fact, the department says it would still be above its 20-year average. But that is exactly why this crisis is controversial. Averages can hide damage. A few strong sectors can cover up weakness in others. Land values can rise while operating cash gets tight. A farmer can look wealthy on paper because land is expensive, yet still struggle to pay bills, buy seed, fix equipment, and roll over debt. That is the quiet danger. A crisis in farming does not always begin with empty shelves. It often begins with a balance sheet that still looks solid from far away, while the cash drawer is getting thinner up close. The second warning sign is that cash coming into farms is expected to fall. The Department of Agriculture forecast says overall farm cash receipts are projected to decrease by $14.2 billion in 2026, landing at $514.7 billion. Animal and animal product receipts are projected to drop by $17 billion, while crop receipts rise only slightly in regular dollars and actually decline after inflation. This matters because farming is not paid in vibes, it is paid in receipts. If prices fall, if buyers pull back, or if the market is flooded with supply, the farmer still has to pay for fuel, fertilizer, labor, land rent, repairs, insurance, taxes, seed, chemicals, and interest. The public sees food prices and assumes farmers must be getting rich. But grocery prices include processing, packaging, trucking, retail labor, restaurant labor, advertising, rent, electricity, and corporate margins after the crop leaves the farm. The farmer is at the start of the chain, not the end of the receipt. The third warning sign is that expenses are not falling enough. Production expenses are forecast at $477.7 billion in 2026. That is only 1% higher in regular dollars than the year before, and slightly lower after inflation. But the important point is the level. Farming today is brutally expensive before a single bushel is sold. Livestock and poultry purchases are projected to be the biggest expense category at $66.3 billion. Feed is projected at $65.6 billion. Cash labor is projected at $53.9 billion. These are not small business expenses where someone can just cut back a little and be fine. Many farm costs must be paid before the farmer knows the final price of the crop. You plant into uncertainty. You borrow into uncertainty. You hire into uncertainty. You buy inputs into uncertainty. Then you pray that weather, markets, export demand, and politics do not all move against you at once. The fourth warning sign is the squeeze between crop prices and break-even costs. A farm can produce a beautiful crop and still lose money if the price is too low. That sounds strange to people outside agriculture, but it is normal in commodity farming. Farmers do not set the global corn price or soybean price the way a restaurant sets a menu price. A Purdue Crop Cost Guide for 2026 estimated break-even prices on average. Productivity soil at about $5.34 per bushel for corn and $12.47 per bushel for soybeans. Those break-even levels remain far above what many farmers were used to before the pandemic shock years. The controversial truth is that record production can be bad news if everyone produces too much at the same time. More bushels can mean lower prices. A huge harvest can become a financial trap when the cost of producing that harvest is still high. The fifth warning sign is debt. The farm sector's debt is forecast to hit $624.7 billion in 2026, up 5.2% from the year before. Real estate debt is expected to reach $404.3 billion. Non-real estate debt is expected to reach $220.4 billion. That second number matters because it includes the kind of borrowing farmers often use to operate. The money needed for seed, feed, fertilizer, machinery, fuel, chemicals, livestock, and normal bills. Debt is not automatically bad in farming. A farm without credit is often a farm that cannot plant. But debt becomes dangerous when incomes soften, interest stays high, and lenders start asking harder questions. The farm sector's debt-to-asset ratio is also forecast to rise, while working capital is forecast to fall by 9.2%. That means the system still has assets but less quick cash cushion. In plain English, the barn may look expensive, but the checkbook is getting tighter. The sixth warning sign is the cost of borrowing. Farm loan interest rates have come down from their recent peaks, but they are still high compared with the last decade. A Federal Reserve Agriculture update reported average farm loan rates around 7.5% across participating districts, roughly 1 percentage point above the 10-year average. For a household, a higher rate means a more painful mortgage or car payment. For a farm, a higher rate can hit everything at once: land loans, equipment loans, operating lines, livestock financing, and carryover debt from last year. A farmer may not be borrowing because they are careless. They may be borrowing because the crop has to go in before the crop gets sold. That timing gap is the heartbeat of farm finance. When money costs more, the whole heartbeat gets weaker. The seventh warning sign is that lenders are already reporting stress. The Kansas City Federal Reserve said farm finances and credit conditions weakened in the second quarter of 2025, with farm income and loan repayment rates declining at a similar pace to recent quarters. It also said the deterioration was most pronounced in areas more dependent on crop revenue, while strong cattle prices supported some livestock-heavy regions. That split is important. America does not have one farm economy. It has many farm economies stacked on top of each other. A cattle rancher may be in a better moment than a grain farmer. A dairy may face different pressure than a cotton farmer. A rice farmer faces a different world than a corn farmer. When people say, farmers are fine, they may be looking at the strongest corner of the map. When people say, farming is collapsing, they may be looking at the weakest corner. The truth is sharper, stress is spreading unevenly, and the weakest parts are flashing red first. The eighth warning sign is government payments doing too much of the work. Direct government farm payments are forecast at $44.3 billion in 2026, up $13.8 billion from 2025. That is a huge support beam under the farm income picture. Government support can be necessary after disasters, price crashes, and policy shocks. The controversial part is what it says about the private market. If a big share of the farm economy needs emergency-style support just to hold together, that is not a sign of a healthy system. It is a sign that the market price is not covering the real cost of keeping farms alive. It also creates a political problem. Farmers are told to be independent, but the system increasingly pushes them toward aid, insurance, disaster programs, and policy decisions made far away from the field. That is not hypocrisy by farmers. It is a system design problem. The ninth warning sign is exports. American agriculture has long depended on selling more than the domestic market can absorb. That is especially true for soybeans, grains, cotton, meat, and other commodities. The Department of Agriculture's February 2026 Trade Outlook forecast agricultural exports at $174 billion and imports at $203 billion, implying an agricultural trade deficit of $29 billion. That does not mean farmers are doomed, but it does mean the old assumption that America will always dominate global farm trade is weaker than it used to be. The soybean market shows the pressure clearly. In April 2026, the department's soybean outlook reduced the United States soybean export forecast by 35 million bushels, pointing to stronger exports from Brazil. That one detail tells a bigger story. Farmers in Iowa, Illinois, Arkansas, North Dakota, and Mississippi are not only competing with the farmer down the road, they are competing with Brazil, Argentina, the Black Sea region, currency shifts, shipping costs, tariffs, trade politics, and foreign buyers who can switch suppliers when the price is better. The 10th warning sign is the machinery market. When farmers feel confident, they replace tractors, buy combines, upgrade planters, and invest in technology. When they feel trapped, they repair old machines and delay big purchases. The Association of Equipment Manufacturers reported that United States agricultural tractor sales were down 9.1% in March 2026 compared with March 2025, while combined sales fell 25.3%. That is not just a machinery story, it is a confidence story. A farmer who delays a combine may also delay hiring, delay expansion, delay building repairs, delay precision equipment, delay grain storage, or delay a child's return to the family farm. Machinery purchases ripple through rural towns. The dealer feels it, the mechanic feels it, the parts counter feels it, the banker feels it, the trucking company feels it. A farm economy crisis does not stop at the field edge. It walks into town wearing muddy boots. John Deere is not the whole farm equipment industry, but it is one of the clearest public signals of the cycle because its business rises and falls with farmers' willingness to spend. Reports around the company's outlook have pointed to continued weakness in large agricultural equipment demand, with expectations of another decline in the North American large ag market in 2026. That does not mean one company caused the problem. It means farmers are acting like people under pressure. They are protecting cash, avoiding giant loans, and trying to squeeze one more season out of equipment that may already be aging. The hidden risk is that old equipment can become expensive in a different way. Breakdowns during planting or harvest can cost more than repairs. A machine that fails on the wrong week can turn a narrow margin year into a disaster. The 11th warning sign is farm bankruptcies. Chapter 12. Bankruptcy is designed for family farmers and family fishermen with regular annual income, allowing them to propose a repayment plan over 3 to 5 years. In 2025, farm bankruptcies rose to 315 filings, up 46% from 2024, according to the American Farm Bureau Federation's analysis of United States courts data. Bankruptcy is a late-stage signal. It usually comes after savings are drained, credit lines are stretched, bills are delayed, equipment is sold, family members take more off-farm work, and the farmer tries every quiet solution first. So when filings rise, the stress behind them is usually larger than the number itself. For every farm that files, there may be others selling land, quitting a lease, downsizing, retiring early, merging with a neighbor, or simply disappearing without a courtroom record. The 12th warning sign is the disappearance of farms. The number of United States farms was estimated at 1,865,000 in 2025, down 15,000 from 2024. The Department of Agriculture also said the number of farms fell in every sales class except the $1 million or more sales class. That sentence should stop people cold. It means the system is losing smaller operations while the biggest category holds or grows. This is not just nostalgia. Farm consolidation changes rural life. It changes school enrollment, church attendance, local equipment businesses, county tax bases, volunteer fire departments, grain elevator traffic, and whether young people see a future in farming. The old saying was, get big or get out. The new version is colder. Get bigger, get specialized, get financed, get insured, get efficient, and still maybe get squeezed. The 13th warning sign is farmland itself. Land values can rise even when farm cash flow weakens, and that creates a strange trap. The Department of Agriculture said the value of United States farmland averaged $4,350 per acre in 2025, up 4.3% from 2024. Rising land values can make farm balance sheets look strong, but they also make it harder for young farmers to buy in and harder for tenants to expand. Worse, much of rented farmland is controlled by people who do not operate farms. A 2026 Department of Agriculture tenure report found that more than 2 million landowners rented out about 347.8 million acres of agricultural land in 2024, and 79% of those rented acres were owned by non-operating landlords. Landlords received $34.1 billion in rent payments. That means many farmers are not only fighting the market, They are also bidding for access to the land itself. The 14th warning sign is the food dollar illusion. People look at expensive groceries and assume the farmer is getting a big slice. The Department of Agriculture's food dollar data says farm establishments received 11.8 cents per dollar spent on domestically produced food in 2024. The remaining 88.2 cents went to the marketing side: processing, transportation, packaging, wholesaling, retailing, restaurants, and other costs after the farm gate. This is one of the most important facts in the whole story. High food prices and struggling farmers can exist at the same time. A shopper can feel robbed at the checkout, and the farmer who grew the raw product can still be underpaid. That is not a conspiracy by itself. Modern food has many steps, but it does expose a painful truth. The person doing the growing often has the least power over the final price. The 15th warning sign is that many farm households survive because of off-farm income. The Department of Agriculture forecast median total farm household income at $113,031 in 2026, but it also forecast median farm income earned by farm households at negative $1,161, while median off-farm income was forecast at more than $92,000. That means many farm families are not living off the farm alone. Someone may be teaching, nursing, driving, welding, working in a factory, running a side business, working for the county, or commuting to keep the farm alive. This is where the public image of farming breaks down. People imagine one family living comfortably from acres and animals. Often, the farm is held together by another paycheck. That does not make the farm fake. It reveals how hard it is for food production to pay for itself under the current structure. Another warning sign sits under all the others. Risk is getting harder to price. Weather disasters, drought, flood, hail, wind, heat, disease, and price swings do not hit politely one at a time. The crop insurance system exists because farming is exposed to risks most businesses never face. The Risk Management Agency says revenue protection policies can insure against yield losses from natural causes, such as drought, excess moisture, hail, wind, frost, insects, and disease, as well as revenue losses from changes in harvest price. That sounds reassuring, and it is important. But insurance does not make farming risk-free. It has premiums, coverage limits, paperwork, deadlines, exclusions, and gaps. It may help a farmer survive the bad year, but it does not always make the bad year profitable. And when weather risk, input inflation, weak prices, and debt pressure arrive together, insurance becomes a cushion, not a cure. The deeper problem is that the farm economy is becoming less forgiving. A few decades ago, a farmer could make mistakes and maybe recover if land was cheaper, machinery was simpler, interest was lower, and input bills were smaller. Today, one bad decision can be huge because the numbers are huge. One wrong fertilizer bet, one machinery loan at the wrong time, one rented farm lost to a higher bidder, one export shock, one disease outbreak, one storm, one year where the crop is good but the price is terrible. Farming has always been risky, but the scale of the bet has changed. This is why people inside agriculture often sound more worried than the headline numbers suggest. They know how thin the margin can be even when the operation looks large. There is also a psychological warning sign that does not fit neatly in a spreadsheet. Farmers are planners. They think in seasons, rotations, breeding cycles, equipment life, soil health, land leases, and family succession. When the future feels too uncertain, they stop making long-term moves. Purdue's Ag Economy Barometer showed farmer sentiment dropped sharply at the start of 2026, falling from 136 in December 2025 to 113 in January 2026. It later improved to 127 in March. But the fact that confidence can swing so fast tells you how nervous the ground is under people's feet. Farmers do not need perfect conditions to keep going. They are used to hard years. What breaks confidence is when the rules, prices, costs, and markets all feel unstable at the same time. One uncomfortable truth is that the word crisis does not mean every farmer is losing money today. Some are doing well. Some cattle operations have benefited from strong cattle prices. Some farms have low debt. Some own land bought decades ago. Some locked in costs at the right time. Some have strong local markets or value-added businesses. But a crisis can still exist when the path into farming narrows, debt rises, liquidity falls, bankruptcies climb, farm numbers shrink, exports weaken, input costs stay high, and government aid becomes a major support beam. A bridge can still carry traffic while its weakest supports are cracking. The smart question is not, has the whole bridge fallen? The smart question is, how many supports can crack before everyone admits there is a problem? Another uncomfortable truth is that consumers and farmers are often being squeezed by the same machine from opposite ends. Consumers pay more for food and feel angry. Farmers get a small share of that food dollar and feel angry. The middle of the chain says it has higher labor, energy, packaging, transportation, finance, storage, compliance, insurance, and retail costs. Some of that is real. Some of it deserves closer scrutiny. But the result is clear. The person buying food and the person growing food can both feel cheated. That is why this topic gets so emotional. It is not just about economics. It is about trust. People want to know why food is expensive if farmers are struggling. Farmers want to know why their work feeds the country but does not always pay the bills. There is a reason farm stress can build quietly for years before the public notices. Farms do not close like restaurants with a sign taped to the door. A farm may disappear through a lease not renewed, land sold to a neighbor, children choosing not to return, equipment auctioned in pieces, livestock reduced, or a retirement that happens earlier than planned. The land may still be farmed, so outsiders think nothing changed. But something did change. One family left the business. One local decision-maker disappeared. One more farm name came off the mailbox. One more rural community became a little more dependent on fewer, larger operators. The field still grows corn, so the loss is invisible from the highway. This is why the crisis is not only about food supply. America is still a massive food producer. The shelves are not empty because one farm quits. The issue is who gets to farm, who can survive a bad cycle, who controls land, who controls inputs, who captures the consumer dollar, and whether the next generation can enter without inheriting land or debt. A country can produce plenty of food while making it nearly impossible for ordinary families to become farmers. That is the contradiction. Abundance at the national level can hide stress at the human level. So what should viewers watch next? Watch debt, not just income. Watch working capital, not just land values. Watch bankruptcies, but remember they lag behind the pain. Watch equipment sales because they reveal confidence. Watch exports because America cannot store its way out of every surplus. Watch government payments because aid can stabilize farms but also hide weak market prices. Watch farm numbers because disappearing farms are not just statistics. Watch the food dollar because high grocery prices do not automatically mean farmers are thriving. And watch whether young farmers can get land, credit, and a fair shot. That may be the clearest test of all. The big takeaway is simple. America's farm economy is not in crisis because farmers forgot how to work. It is in crisis because the math is getting harsher. Cash receipts are under pressure. Costs remain heavy. Debt is rising. Credit is tighter. Exports are uncertain. Equipment sales are weak. Bankruptcies are climbing. Farm numbers keep falling. Land is expensive. Rent is powerful. Farmers receive a small share of the food dollar. Many households depend on off-farm paychecks, and government support is carrying more weight than many people want to admit. If this video helped you see the farm economy more clearly, hit like, share it with someone who thinks high grocery prices mean farmers are getting rich, and comment with this question. Which warning sign do you think is the most dangerous for America's food future?